Okay, today I'm going to discuss a technique where you can transfer a drawing or a line to your piece with some underglaze or stain, or in this case, I'm going to use a clay to experiment with this clay mixed with about 50% Gersley borate. You could use another frit of some sort, but something to help melt it. And I'm going to make a slip out of this, a slurry, and then I'm going to transfer it to a piece of plastic, or in this case, a tile. um, and let it dry, and I'll talk about the process from there. So first, I want to add water slowly. So I like to just kind of get a sense. It feels like it depends about how much material you have. Again, the color that you choose could be a clay, could just be a metallic oxide, or degussa, or mason, or any kind of inclusion stain. So I get a sense, I get it kind of to a certain consistency. I don't want it super thin and I don't want it super thick. And I don't want it clumpy. So pretty much just do a little portion. So the other thing that I do is I save this little palette lid here. And next time I want to use this color, I just do it on top of here, so I'm never really wasting any stain. In the case of this clay, clay is cheaper, so it doesn't matter too much. So you see how it kind of covers that, but yet you see brush marks. I don't want it super thick again. I don't want it super thin. And you can play with that, different thicknesses. As I get it to a certain point, again, with the Gersley borate 50/50, and then the color it, then I'm going to brush the coating on the tile, or on, then you just get cheap commercial tile at Goodwill or Habitat. Usually for humanity you can buy some commercial tile. You see how thin it is there against the color of the tile. I like it a little thicker so my line is a little more dense. Alright, so I prepared one with some green stain, black stain, and you see the sheen on it. I prepared one with some degussa red stain too. Now that sheen on it, I want that sheen to go away. So I like to prepare them, and then tomorrow I'll use them. So I'll just let them dry. Here's a piece of glass that I coated with 2 different slips, and you can see the sheen has gone away now. I'm just finishing up, and I don't want to, drawing a very small, so if you look at my thumb, it's a very small, I'm trying to look at a stargazer lily because I have those. Now I don't want to, I can do the shading after I place it on there. Like, I don't want to shade it and do all that stuff. But I want mainly just that line, so I want to keep that line. Alright, I don't want to go too far with the drawing, because it could be just a basic crappy drawing like this. Hopefully your drawing skills are a little better, but like drawing something that small is, maybe I should have switched to a different pencil. I also did something more graphic with RBG. I tried to like make it basic. Again, look at the fine point. Like I would have liked to draw this a little more detailed. So spend your time on your drawing, try and capture what you want, and then when you go to outline it, you'll see what I mean, how it just picks up every line. One thing you can do is you find clip art, like I was thinking about drawing lace, but drawing lace is really difficult for me. But if I wanted to like put some kind of lace pattern on, I can print that up and then I just draw over it. Again, look at how small this is. If I want it smaller, I can bring it down to a smaller level too. So look at that. To be able to go over that is going to be difficult, but I'm going to try some lace patterning too. Okay, again, that's like about an inch. So like putting it on here, I'm going to cut that piece of paper out. So I have a little tag to hold on to when I transfer it to the clay. But here's a couple colors here. got my ballpoint pens, and I got a board that's thicker on both sides and a board that slides. So then the only kind of pressure I'm pushing on this paper is where the pen is going to press, and you'll see that. So I'm gonna set that up, and I can make sure you set that up so you're not leaning on there, because this inclusion stain, or in this case this clay, could transfer in areas onto that paper where you don't want it to transfer. Okay? Again, I like to be able to move that piece of glass or that tile around and have one area where I'm really going to hold it down. And then, like I said, I'm going to get above it, and I'm going to transfer this. This is going to be kind of a long, boring part, so I won't do too much, but I'll do a little bit here. Okay, so you see how on the drawing, it's not a great drawing of RBG, but kind of looks like Ruth. Just looking at more graphically, with something this small, again, you look at the size of my fingernail there compared to that, you can see how it's taken it off the tile, and you see these smudges where I held it down. And you can cut those smudges away before you put it on the piece. All right, this one's a little finer if you look at that drawing on that side. Then this black stain here is just making that black outline. So I can just think about that area too as shading. And this gets a little more tricky because sometimes that black comes up if you're not really careful. And maybe I'll fill this in with some color and make it have some red in there. So I'll try some shading in there with a different tile. So I have a red tile over here somewhere. Maybe I'll put a little green in there. Here it is with a little bit of color added. All right, so the surface should be a little wetter than leather hard. What I like to do is put a nice underglaze. There's a white underglaze here and here on this cup, and I'm gonna try and take this one here and put it in here. Curvatures are really hard, so we'll see how this goes. But one of the things about cups is you face your favorite side towards someone, and so maybe I'll face that. So if I'm right-handed, it'll be facing that way. If it's left-handed, if I'm drinking it from my left hand, it'll be facing me. And I'm gonna take this and put it on the bottom. See how that goes. So first, I will do just the black one. See how it goes. Sometimes you want to have a spray bottle, and you can moisten that surface too. If it's a little bit dry, you might try that. But you don't want it to be wet like that. Okay, so let's get that off of there, that sheet. And once that sheet is gone, I'm going to try this. Again, you want a little tag, and I cut a lot of paper away because I want it to bend. If you have too much paper, it's not going to bend in there. All right, so I'm going to turn the camera towards my lap because I'm going to put this in my lap. Gently figure out where I want to position it. Let's go right dead center, because that's always a really bad compositional choice. And then I'm going to burnish it down. And I can use my fingers, and if I hold it in one place here, I can still lift it and see how that transfer's going. And another thing is, so you could use a little moisture. I'll put a little moisture on the table and get a little moisture on my red rubber rib. And the moisture through the paper will get that to also go onto the surface. Got a peek, see how it's going. Go up this way now. Well, there's so many ways to work with drawing onto your pieces, of course. It's just, if you're thinking about like repeating something, you could, of course, look at this as a really great way to repeat an image that you draw. Okay, so now, there it is. It's on there. All right, it's upside down, so I don't have to put it in my lap now. Yeah, I'll think about where this goes. Of course, on the bottom of a cup, it's a little more precarious because of the, you don't want to press too hard on the bottom. If you're really gentle. All right, let's see what it looks like. And so again, the moisture content, these are pretty hard leather hard. I would do it at a little softer state, and you can get a better transfer. Right. So, you know, I'll just show you the end. I did a whole bunch of other things, and there's graffito, some brushwork. This is that transfer of RBG, and started framing it in, thinking compositionally. Of course, this is a demo, so I did all this stuff on there to try and illustrate certain things. So you have this new technique in your wheelhouse. So it's in your toolbox. It might not be something you pull out right away here, but just think about the ideas of how you work with your work in the layering of technique to create visual depth and actual physical depth. You could think about how graffito could carve back through to another slip also. And so there's all these ideas of how you think about it in that aspect of creating the foreground, middle ground, background. All these ideas, how you think about it in terms of thinking about depth and repetitive design. There's something that where you have to figure out what you want to say with your work, whether it be an aesthetic you're directing it towards, or a conceptual concern, or abstract notions. So think about, now you have the idea of paper stencil resist, you have the idea of just brushwork, you have the idea of transferring a drawing through this technique. I brought up ceramic decals too as one more added layer. You could go overboard like I did with this silly cup. Again, you know, it's a demonstration, but I'm just trying to illustrate where you can go. Simplicity might be the direction you choose, you know, where you just play with simple surface work. But these are out there for you, these techniques, and as you get into it, remember all the things that have slowly been built up in your skills. And don't forget what's in your toolbox down the line, because it may actually reference something that you may want to try and capture in your work. All right, the technique is really more suited towards leather hard and, you know, wetter leather hard like I mentioned, or when you're laying down an underglaze or a slip. In bisqueware, as you know, like once it's fired, it's already shrunk and everything, so there's some slips don't really work, but you could try an underglaze that's formulated for bisqueware and try this. So I'm going to show you how well that works. Talked about how you can repeat an image, so let's just going to do this one again just to restate that. One of the things that I showed you is like when you want to do it when the sheen is off of it. With this bisque piece, I'm going to lay it on as soon as I see that sheen off, because the bisque will absorb the water from it so much that this won't then transfer that well. So I'm gonna choose an area and like really get it coated. And you know, if you want it thicker, that's one way to do it. Like if you get it thicker, it takes a lot longer for that sheen to go away. Like I said, if I have a wet rubber rib like this, so the moisture penetrates that paper. Spray the paper a little. Do a little peek. See how it's transferring? I'm just kind of moistening my finger, and that way this water transfers it over to that underglaze that's on the bisque piece. So you can get it. And actually, if your piece is somewhat fragile, maybe you want to do it on bisqueware, because you can press on it a little harder. So if you find out that you're needing to press on your transfer a little more, then maybe that is one thing to think about. If you use too much water, let me try and use a little too much water in this area here. I'll show you what happens if you use too much water. All right, it bleeds. So it bleeds through a little like that. Worked out all right, but as you notice from the first demonstration on the leather hard, on the greenware piece, you'll notice that it's a little stronger. All right, one of the good things about once you've laid it down, you can think about that's just a starting point. So I kind of treated it kind of like a line that I would then fill in with color. So I just kind of played with this. Again, thinking about where you would go with it in terms of abstract or representational directions, you can think about how you compose that area of your piece, or how it can, you know, wrap around the whole piece too. So that's all just with that transfer and some underglazes. All right, I want to give you a little bit of word of caution. If you have like detail work or anything that's done fresh like this, it could smudge very easily. You could smear it. You have to be very careful with it. One little trick is to use some Aquanet hairspray or some kind of cheap hairspray, and you can spray that whole image and it fixes it on there. And of course that stuff will just burn away in the firing. If you're planning on glazing around it though, that overspray could act as a resist, which might be all right, but it might be something that you don't want. So there you have it. A couple ways to play with the transfer of image technique. Don't forget to get a hold of me if you need anything. I hope you enjoyed this.